it can't have escaped your notice that this year marks the 30th anniversary of the release of Stutter Rap by Morris Minor and the Majors. I'm very pleased to say that I have on the phone to talk about this writer, comedian, actor, musician, raconteur, and 1/3 of Morris Minor and the Majors, Tony Hawks. Thank you very much for joining us on Phonic FM, Tony.
Yeah, well, actually, it had escaped my notice that it was 30 years, but thanks for reminding me.
Well, I'm sure that you will get lots of... I'm sure people are shouting at their radios now, and you'll probably get lots of messages pointing out that that it was actually released in December of this year, but it peaked in the charts in January 1988. So, but
that's right. Yeah, it was the Christmas number 23.
Wonderful, that prestigious spot.
and then it shot up. It did very well in January. So
well, we're trying to get ahead of the forthcoming sort of excitement and hype surrounding the anniversary by doing this now. But
well done. Yeah, it's going to be big, I think.
I think so. How did it feel back then to watch it climb the charts to reach the giddy heights of number 4, which was quite an achievement?
Yes. It was very bizarre, to be honest. I mean, I remember as a kid, I always watched Top of the Pops. It had always been a kind of ambition, a dream, if you like, to be in the charts, do that stuff. But then when it actually kind of happens, there's nothing you can touch. It's not a tangible thing, and you just kind of go, okay, it's happening now, and then life goes on, same as it always did. So it's rather odd. The most exciting bit was sort of listening to the chart rundown and going, oh, wow, there we are, sort of thing. An interesting story is we were number 4 one week, and then we were midweek number 1.
Really?
And our manager said, oh, yeah, but the problem is you're on the same record label as Belinda Carlisle, Heaven is a Place on Earth.
Yes.
And the record company can't cope with, the pressing plant can't cope with the demand for both records. So they're going to put one of them on priority. And I said, well, which one? And he said, well, they're going to get back to me. But I reckon the record company must have debated this for minutes before they decided to put Belinda Carlisle on priority. She went to number 1. And we stayed at number 4, but we were outselling it. We didn't sell any records at all in the second half of the week. So we might have had a number 1, but there you go.
Well, I think that's an oversight on their part, on the record label's part.
Absolutely, and I've never spoken to Belinda Carlisle since. So
well, I should think
not. In many ways. In the culture.
I'm sure she used the day when she released that record the same time as Morris Minor and the Majors.
Don't cross Morris Minor and the Majors. That's the thing. Not if you want your career. I mean, she's hardly having any hits at all these days.
Well, that's right. Where is she now? Where is she now? Where are the other two Morris Minor and the Majors? Or sorry, where are the other two Majors?
Yeah, Phil is in. One of them is in Dublin. He's following a career as an actor. He always wanted to be an actor. He was always deeply embarrassed by everything that was happening, really, although I think he enjoyed it. But and Paul is sort of flits between London and America, and has sort of built a bit of a career for himself as a kind of advising businesses on how to pitch for things and this kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
It's extraordinary, really, but he's managed to do it, so all credit to him.
Hasn't followed the path of rock and roll that sort of beckons the three of you at the time.
Yeah, I don't know how, because he never seemed that, that was what he was any good at, but he must be, so there you go.
But I mean, it did look like you were having a great time back then, and there were other songs as well, weren't there? It wasn't just that one song. I was wondering whether an album was ever mooted. I've seen clips of other songs, other performances you did.
Yeah, we were they wanted an album, and we were sort of given a certain amount of money to come up with stuff. So, and I was the writers of the band, so we were just sort of going through our cabaret act and thinking, how can we create an album? What can we do? So we wanted a follow-up to be a kind of heavy metal spoof called We're Knitting Cardigans in Hell. They loved this Stock Aitken Waterman spoof I'd done, so they went with that, and it wasn't, a big enough hit. And then they did this thing which they dropped us, so they said, well, we don't want the album after all, because they couldn't see it. So It turned out to be quite a good thing because we'd actually, rather than spending all this money, we just, we kept the profits that we'd made. We didn't spend very much money making Stutter Rap. We didn't spend, they didn't spend very much promoting it. So, unlike most bands who were in debt after their first success, we were in profit and we just kept it. So we at least made some money out of the record, and I ended up virtually paying off my small mortgage that I had at the time.
Wonderful.
And it sort of set me up for life, really.
Well,
so I'm very fond of it in that respect.
Well, that's what I like. People would always like to think of someone who has had a hit record, that's how it should be. You hear stories otherwise, like you say, of musicians that sadly don't see much of the proceeds of their hits, but I'm glad to hear that in this case.
Yeah, the thing is, you see, they take you into a studio, and then they pick you up in a car, and then they treat you like a star, and it's all fantastic. But they're billing that all to you. So, if you had that choice of saying, right, do you want to get to this place and it'll cost you 75 quid, or do you want to get the tube? You'd say, well, okay, I'll get the tube and I'll save the 75 quid. But it doesn't happen that way, because you're not seeing it, and it just gets spent and spent and spent. And that's where all these rock bands, they live this sort of life.
Yes.
And they're eating all this food and everything's there and having an amazing time, and they're just running up. So when they have their hit and they make 50,000, the record company goes, no, but we spent 80,000. You owe us 30.
Right. Yes.
It's a nightmare. It really is a nightmare. And then they owe tax on the money they've earned as well. So people can get into huge trouble.
Well, it sounds like you were perhaps best getting out of it while you did, and taking the money.
Yeah. Well, we did. Yeah, we actually, I can't remember his name. He used to work with John Peel. He was John Peel's co-producer.
John Waters.
John Waters. Yeah, we got in a cab with him once, and he said, I can't remember where we were going or why, and he said, you do realise you're only going to have one hit, don't you? And we sort of no, we'll have another. But he was spot on. He just said, enjoy it while it's there, because you're only going to do it once. And there you go. He was spot on.
But it sounds like you did enjoy it while it lasted, which is great.
We had a great time. I mean, what I would say, where it kind of set me up for life, philosophically, is it made me realise that stuff that happens to you is, big things, great things that are great, whatever, they come and they go, and they came and they went incredibly quickly for us. So, after our follow-up was not doing very well, I'd say to the record company, they said, will you come and do an interview? And I said, yeah, what time are you sending the car? And there was a silence, followed by, we thought you could get the tube. And then that's when the bubble has burst.
Yes, the clues are there.
It happened in a matter of months for us.
Right.
So, but that's good. That was good. It's like taking a smack in the face and going, well, you're not so special. The trouble is, people can believe they're special for long periods of their lives, and then suddenly, it never lasts. You can never be huge forever.
No.
And the ones that are huge quite often kill themselves.
Yes, it doesn't always end well, does it?
No. Thing, isn't it?
It's trying to sustain that level of sort of adoration and everything that comes with fame.
Look, we never really had to deal with it. We did a thing called Get Fresh.
Yes.
I don't know whether you remember. It was a kids' show
I do remember.
On ITV, and this is when we were number 4 in the charts. And there were these kids on this show, and we were on the same programme as Ross, and they were sort of big teeny pop band. But this girl was screaming at me, Morris, come over here, Morris. And I thought, oh God, she's sort of in love with me, this girl, so then I'm loving it, and Anyway, she calls me over, and I finally go over to her, and she hands me this bit of paper and says, could you get me Bross's autograph? We didn't really. We were never very special. That was okay. I was a little courier to go and do something else for her, so that was my rock stardom for you.
Brought you down to earth with a bump.
Yeah.
Let's say yes. But what I like about that song, is that, I mean, I was a genuine fan of the track at the time, but listening to it recently, it still stands up as a very funny record and a very good parody as well. And I mean, people may disagree, but I just think 30 years on, it just still sounds like a great track.
Well, I mean, the thing that, what's frustrating a bit is because it's a silly track and a funny track, people will often sort of diss it and go, oh, that's just sort of silly, that's rubbish, or blah, blah, blah. But it's very hard to write something that sustains in a you've got to come up with something, you've got to have an idea, then you've got to do a verse that's funny, then you've got to do a chorus, then you've got to repeat it. In pop, lyrics don't need to really mean anything. They just so it's. I'm not saying it's brilliant, but it was hard work to achieve, and we did do it. Or I did it because I wrote it, but it was a hard thing to write, and I'm glad that it is appreciated at some level, even though it's silly. It's quite hard to do it so that people sustain for 3 minutes 40. The only thing I regret about it is that some people who had stutters, kids at school or whatever, did get the mickey taken out of them a bit more than they might have done. So that it's not very politically correct. But I really realised that at the time.
Do you think that you would be able to do, sort of not get away with it, but it would be acceptable nowadays?
I'll tell you what, I had an interesting experience about a year ago. I can't remember where I was. I was at some sort of National Trust property somewhere. And this bloke who was about, 40 or whatever, came up to me and said, you were Morris Minor from Morris Minor Majors, weren't you? I went, wow, that doesn't happen very often. And then I was sort of thinking, well, he was about to pay me a compliment. And then he sort of turned quite angry and said, you made my life a misery when I was at school.
Right.
And I kind of went, did I really? Did you tell me what happened? And he said, all the kids were sort of chanting it, and so I said, well, I'm so sorry. I've never had the opportunity to apologise to somebody for that. Can I just explain to you the background of how it got written? And so we sat down, and I told him, I had no idea. It was a little jokey thing we did in our act, and then we did it on Saturday Live, and we had no expectations, and suddenly it's in this position. And that we had no way of knowing it could ever make someone's life. Anyway, it was it ended rather nicely. He shook my hand and he said, well, thank you for telling me. But I am sorry for the people that it did cause some difficulty to. I just had no idea that could happen. But we got to remember just how cruel kids can be, can't they?
Yes, I guess so. But I think, I would hope that no one thought there was ever any sort of malice or Mickey taking involved in it. It wasn't really. No, it wasn't sort of saying that having a stutter is a bad thing. No.
It was just saying that having a stutter is probably best not to do rap music.
Yes,
that's the joke, really,
exactly.
Which I don't think is a terrible thing to do. No. But if you're sensitive, and this boy obviously was sensitive, it can make you vulnerable, really. There are quite a lot of things that can do that.
Well, indeed.
Anyway, I was pleased that I didn't go defensive. I kind of, I tried to empathise with him. It was a good little lesson in how to carry myself.
Good. Looking around on the internet recently, it's interesting, or I'd forgotten perhaps, or never known perhaps, how many sort of different incarnations of it there were at the time. Now, I found the 12-inch extended mix, which was always necessary for any record in the 80s, which is good. And then there's a clip of you on performing the song on Surprise Surprise with Cilla Black, which ended with a sort of heavy metal finish. I don't know if you remember that. The three of you sort of go off momentarily and come back on with guitars and give it a good sort of heavy metal flourish at the end, which was an interesting version I hadn't been aware of before.
I think what it was, I think someone wanted to do something, they'd written in and said, I'd love to do something with heavy metal or whatever, and I don't know how it came to us, and we said, well, we'll do this. We were still desperately trying to plug the thing, so getting on the program like that, mainstream thing, was a great opportunity to do it. So we dreamt up this little idea that we'd come on, and I have no idea what I'd have to watch that again, I suppose. But
yes, it seemed to include, as you suggested, somebody who perhaps had that as a wish. There is a fourth person with you who looks like an older lady.
Came on, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, it was an old lady or
rather
something.
Disappointing. Oh, was it a lady? Anyway, she didn't really get to play heavy metal at all. She got to play with Morris Minor. She's probably ruined her life as well.
Well, like I say, it created a different version of the song, which was interesting. And I noticed somebody is also sort of perhaps going back a little bit to sort of the Mickey taking side of it. Someone's actually incorporated it with bits of Barack Obama stuttering over a speech of his, where they've cut that in with Stutter Rap, which I guess is a more recent thing. But yeah, it's certainly got a life in it, and you've done your own sort of acoustic jazz version as well.
I have. So I thought that might be. I didn't know whether that was creative, but I've done a sort of jazzy, lot of jazzy tracks. But I just thought that would be. I was with the musicians and we were just playing around, and we thought, oh well, let's do a version of that, see how that comes out. It's a hit. It's my hit.
It sounds great.
Do another version of it.
It's nice to hear it in that version. Are you still writing music? I know there's a track of yours that I'd like to play at the end of this called "Love You," which I think is really nice on your website.
I'm still doing a lot in a way. I mean, I love writing songs. I love songs. It's a genre that just appeals to me. I've written a comedy musical. I'm working with Paul Jepson at the Northcote Theatre. We're trying to put that. We may try and put that on next year. That's full of songs I've written, and I want to try and work with other artists as well. I'd like to try and do an album with a female singer of some songs I've got. So if anybody's interested, get in touch. I'm in the Exeter area now, so
no, of course. I'll have to perhaps put some names forward for you. We do like on this show to sort of have new emerging artists and people come in and play live in the studios. So I think Devon is a wonderful place.
What it is I've got these songs sitting around, the catalogue of stuff just sitting in drawers, and I want to try and as long as they like the songs, and they want to do it, we can put together an album and stick it out there, see if it does anything for them.
No, it sounds
that would be the plan.
Sounds great. Have you come across any sort of Devon musicians since you've been down this way that you've admired or got quite into?
I haven't been getting out as much as I like because we've had a toddler. So we've had a little baby. Well, we didn't have a toddler. It didn't come out as a toddler. It came out as a baby and it keeps growing.
They have a habit of doing that. I can vouch for that.
That's right. So I think he's getting to the point. He's 3 now, so I think we might just try to get some sort of life again.
Yes.
And then I would like to start going out and finding out more about the Devon music scene.
Well, I think it's thriving. I think there's some incredible talent out there, and we do our best to play as much as we can on this show. So briefly going back to Stutter Rap, because it did lead to one of your books as well. It sort of fed into One Hit Wonderland. That book would not have happened without Stutter Rap, I guess.
Well, the background being that I was at a dinner party with a group of people, and a friend of mine who knew my history sort of said, "What's it like being a one-hit wonder?" And being a bit of a pedant, I said, "Well, I'm not a one-hit wonder because I haven't finished living my life yet. I'll probably have another hit." So that led to me taking on a challenge to try and have a hit record somewhere in the world within 2 years, and that was very surreal as well. I mean, it ended up having a hit in Albania with the late Sir Norman Wisdom.
I bet you couldn't have seen that it progressing down that path on the basis of making that bet that Norman Wisdom would come into the equation along the way. I mean,
it was inevitable, wasn't it? It was an obvious thing.
Of course, it's happened to us all. Let's face it. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Norman wisdom interjects in our lives, but no. I mean, that was a fantastic book, and I think as is the way with your books, it took you on a great adventure, and I believe you're hoping to head back to Ireland at some point soon.
Well, I had this idea, which was 20 years since I went around Ireland with a fridge. So seemingly, obviously, the 88 is the year for me. It was 87/88, and it was 97 when I went around Ireland with a fridge. So every 10 years, I do something of note.
And now you're on Phonic FM.
But I have to say, my idea was to go back, try and find all the people that gave me lifts and do something nice for them. And I thought I'd write a book about that. When I got there, everyone got wind of what I was doing, and they started to make a big fuss at me. And it was great, and it was lovely, and it was nice. But it wasn't what I really wanted to happen.
Right.
And as I sat there in the evening, I was thinking, I'm just concerned that this is going to feel like the same book again. There's not the excitement of me discovering that this works. Actually, I'm discovering that the Irish is just as much fun as they ever were, and the only difference is I'm used to going to bed early, and without 5 pints in me, and I can't handle it, I can't remember anything, So I had to sort of abort it and say it's not going to work as a book. And because I didn't want to write Round Iron with a Fridge 2 and it not to be good, I think so I had to big lot of soul searching, and then I sort of said, right, I'm coming home, and the fridge is still in Ireland.
In good hands, I hope. Is it in good hands, I hope?
It's in good hands with somebody who runs a guest house, and then they're thrilled. They're absolutely thrilled they've got this fridge. And we want to put it in I've got a meeting tomorrow, actually, about trying to put it into a museum in Dublin. So that maybe should be where it finally spends its days.
That sounds perfect, yes.
That would be a fitting end to the whole venture.
I think the bit that I was looking forward to of the original idea for this return trip was to have a sort of big switch on at the end. I found it hilarious that at the end of the original trip and subsequently it sort of sat there and...
I still want to do that. I
think it would be a nice touch.
It hasn't been, I think if we put it in this museum, we should have a little fridge party. We should see what happens when we switch it on, and so put it to bed, as it were. But so I still want to do that. I just won't do a book about it. That's the only difference.
No, I think that sounds like a fitting way to mark that great trip you did. I would love to know briefly if you're still in touch with Titch the Micro Pig, coming closer to home. With Titch, you took from coast to coast in Devon for from your most recent book, From Once Upon a Time in the West Country.
Well, we were reunited when I was promoting the book. I did a show at the Northcott Theatre, and Titch came, and I brought Titch on stage. Nice. There is a thing, never work with children and animals, and Titch just sort of wandered off and was not terrible. It was a shambolic moment of showbiz that got a round of applause, and then she wandered off. Didn't seem to really remember me. I was a bit hurt.
Oh, that's not.
And then the guy who owns the pig told me about a year ago that she'd actually become a mother. So she's had some little baby micro pigs of her own. So
that's nice.
She's doing well. But I thought we bonded in a way. But she just looked at me like any idea who I was at all.
They're either just very fickle, or maybe she just had stage fright on the night. Maybe that's what it was. And
it could have been that, or it could have been that. She was just had moved on to greater things.
What I liked about that book, and it harks back to your experience with going around Ireland with the fridge, is that both things seem to have. You had the Titch effect, as which sort of helped you along your way with your trip from coast to coast in Devon, and it sort of feeds in, I think, to the what you learned from your trip around Ireland that you sort of came to coin as the fridge philosophy. That I mean, obviously those are quite sort of interesting ideas in themselves to have to accompany a trip with a micro pig and a fridge, but it seemed to teach you a lot about how people can be in the presence of something unusual like that, and how the atmosphere in a pub, for example, can completely change if someone walks in with a fridge. And I like the philosophical things that you've taken from your trips and that you put into your books, and that you've talked about on stage as well. I like that, what you've taken from those experiences.
Absolutely. I think what's made them enjoyable, and probably one of the reasons why I might have aborted the last idea, was that for me, it's such a long process writing a book. You know, it's not just the trip you make, it's in the 6 months you spend afterwards, kind of every day trawling through every minute detail and work. It is good if you can get something out of it in a way. So if you can sort of search for a pearl of wisdom within the thing you've done, however silly it is, and in fact the silliness of it is sort of the wisdom that I've taken from it. Yes. I think I've realised that actually it is important to keep silliness in our lives and not get drawn into taking it all too seriously. That can really sort of lighten the load of life, when it feels, don't take it too seriously. You're a tiny little speck in a magnificent, huge, vast world and universe, and don't take it all too seriously.
One last question, if you don't mind. I appreciate you having spent time talking to us. I'd just love to know if you're still the chair of your village hall committee.
No, I'm not. There was a bit of a coup, actually.
Oh dear, right.
I think I missed a couple of meetings because I was busy, and then they sort of gently went, Tony, I don't think you really got the time, have you? And I leapt at, no, I don't, perhaps rather too eagerly, and it was getting to be a bit of a... I gave it a go. Incredibly micro-local democracy was not for me, and I couldn't imagine spending more evenings spending so much time discussing things of so little consequence.
Yes.
But I did try. I tried.
Well, I got the impression from the book that it wasn't something you'd pursued that eagerly. So I'm sure you weren't too disappointed when you had to stand down.
If I'm completely honest, when I knew that I was going to write about it, so I thought, well, this is great to do this. I'll take this position that's been offered. I'll become chairman and I'll write about it. But it wasn't like I'd ever really wanted it.
No.
Committees are just frustrating things. I can only be a dictator. I'm not a Democrat in that sense. So I'm going to be a benevolent dictator when they finally knock on the door and ask me to run things.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll look forward to that day. Well, thank you very much for spending time with us, Tony. And I would urge everyone to seek out your most recent book, Once Upon a Time in the West Country, and to look back at the great back catalogue of Morris Minor and the Majors, and on your website for your own more recent compositions, which I think are just lovely. So, and we will play "Love You Now" if that's okay. And
yeah, great. Interesting thing is that it was a real thrill for me. We got a proper orchestra, strings playing on it, and so I had a connection of a composer and a conductor who'd been over to Moldova, and he said, I've got a few Moldovan musicians and they'd love to play on this thing. So we all got together, and a bit of a dream come true for me to have real strings playing.
No, wonderful. It sounds fantastic. So we'll hear that now. Well, thank you again, Tony, for talking to us, and hopefully we'll perhaps see you again one day. You can come into the studio and then tell us about
what you... I'd love to. I'll come in and do something.
Especially if you get the Northcote Theatre thing off the ground, that would be fantastic.
That'd be great. Yeah, we could chat about that, play some of the songs. It'd be wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Tony, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tony.
See you then.
Cheers. Bye-bye.